Hello and welcome. My name is Hunter Artmann. I'm the sales engineer here at ActZero. Purpose of this video is just to walk you through a broad overview of the service that ActZero delivers, as well as the customer portal where that service is delivered through. So on the customer portal, what you're looking at on your screen right now, this is how customers interact with the ActZero service. It's how they interact with our 24/7 SOC. It's also how they deal with their proactive operations, things like vulnerability management, compliance management, cloud security posture monitoring, things like that, all condensed within. So let's go through some key aspects of the portal that I'll highlight in this video. And then, of course, if there's a follow-up that's necessary, I can go more in depth in any of this at a future date. Starting off with the key metrics. Whenever a customer signs up with ActZero, they're outsourcing the management of a portion of their security stack. So whenever we're measuring how we're doing, we want to be measuring how good of a job we are doing at delivering said service for our customers. Key aspects that I'll call out are going to be, firstly, noise reduction. This one's pretty self-explanatory. It's the filtration of false positives. So a representation of what that looks like in our demo environment is down here. This is where we've got nearly 1 million events of raw telemetry coming into the demo environment, resulting in 415 detections over the last 30 days. Now, these detections are false positives. And the reason why I highlight this is because false positives in and of themselves are the bane of security teams. Because whenever we are presented with false positives, we have to make a choice between one of two alternatives. On the one hand, we can treat every false positive as a true positive and spend a lot of precious time, especially if we have a lean IT team, hunting down what is, essentially nothing that the security team needs to worry about. Or unfortunately, what more often than not happens is false positives get ignored, which means whenever we do have a true positive that comes through, it doesn't get treated in the way that it should be treated whenever that true positive comes through, because it gets assumed that that alert is a false positive. So we want to be filtering those out on behalf of our customers. I'll give you some hard numbers to mull over as far as our false positive rate. And you can compare these with false positive rates from other cybersecurity service providers, should you so desire. On average, a customer will hear from ActZero about 6 times in a month. So 6 investigations that we will send to a customer that we believe are true positives. On average, 0.8 of those are false positives for newly onboarded customers. That number goes down the longer a customer stays with us and we get to learn their environment a little bit more. But that's what our false positive rate looks like right out of the box. It's something we're very proud of. The other thing that we're really proud of in the key metrics front is our mean time to first response. So this is how quickly does the SOC show up whenever something bad happens, or how quickly do the cops show up whenever you call 911. We're sitting at 6 minutes right now, which is a good running average for our organization and is superior to many of the other even world-class SOCs that are out there as far as their mean time to first response. Our response in our book does not mean creating a ticket in our ticketing system. A response in our book means that a tangible action has been done on an endpoint, done on the network, done on a cloud account, something like that, to mitigate what the bad guy is trying to do. So we take this metric very seriously. It's something, again, we are very proud of. Now, as far as whenever something bad actually happens, a customer does get an investigation from us. Now, this investigation is coming off of CrowdStrike, which is our primary endpoint provider that we use here at ActZero. This is what is delivered to the customer, both via email. It's also available here in the portal. Now, I'll walk through some of the highlights here. And the first thing is we block the following suspicious activity in your environment. So this means that a customer doesn't have to do anything. There are a couple optional things I would recommend, and we'll get to those a little bit later. But as far as defending the environments from ransomware, data exfiltration, credential theft, anything that is going to cause tangible damage to the customer, there's nothing that a customer needs to do in order to protect their environment from that. We give a description of what the process was that we picked up that was bad. In this case, it's a privilege escalation attack that is abusing a weakness within a tool called Thought Helper within Windows to escalate privileges from local user to local admin. Now, the reason why I go through explaining all of that is because if we take a step back and we think about what a bad guy's goal is in attacking an environment, their goal is to make money off of whatever their victim environment is. And ransomware is the lowest hanging fruit right now for the bad guys. It means that they don't have to find a broker for any information that they're stealing. They just get to encrypt a bunch of information that a victim needs to be able to run their business, and then they can demand payment for the decryption keys. in order for a bad guy to use any of the avenues to make money off of a victim environment, whether that be harvesting credentials to steal on the dark web, customer or employee information to, again, sell on the dark web, or ransomware, privilege escalation is always, always, always going to happen at one point or another. So we are focused on ransomware, but we're also focused on all of the steps that lead up to ransomware. If you think about it from like a roadmap kind of perspective, where a bad guy has to, in order to get to, let's say I live in Austin, I want to drive to Dallas. In order to get from Austin to Dallas, I don't just immediately show up in Dallas. I have to get in my car, get on I-35. I have to go north through Waco, through Temple, through a bunch of different cities, and then ultimately I get to Dallas. Very similar, in a very similar way, ransomware functions in much the same thing. Ransomware just doesn't just show up on an endpoint. There is a very prescriptive set of steps that a bad guy has to take, from initial access to privilege escalation to persistence mechanisms to lateral movement to enumeration of the environment, etc. All of these are very prescriptive steps that a bad guy has to follow and steps that we are looking to stop. Now, as far as what a customer should do with this investigation, we've already talked about the fact they don't really need to do anything to defend their environment. That's the whole purpose of us managing this solution for them and having a 24/7 SOC, is so that we can respond to these things whenever a customer needs to sleep or spend time with their family or eat or do anything else outside of just staring at alerts all the time. Now, the other side of our business that I believe is equally as important as the reactive side, so the reactive side being where we are reacting to bad things showing up in the environment, is the proactive side. So how are we making the environment as difficult as possible to attack? And the example that I'll use here is vulnerability management. Vulnerability management is something that is almost like a 4-letter word in the security industry, because even small environments that have only 100 to 300 endpoints or devices in them can have vulnerability counts that range up to 100, 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 even, I've seen in some scenarios. So vulnerability management can be overwhelming and overwhelm people very quickly. Whenever we do vulnerability management, we deploy Tenable, which is a network-based vulnerability scanner. We go through the description, the associated KBs, the CVSS score. Anything that you would expect to see in a Tenable scan is going to be here. But what I do think is special from what ActZero delivers, both directly and through our partners, is the advice that we can offer on these vulnerabilities. So whenever customers get an output of 10,000 vulnerabilities and don't know where to start, they have a resource that they can lean on to be able to prioritize these vulnerabilities, ask questions about patching strategy, and ultimately meet with and have somebody who is an expert to put together a patching strategy in conjunction with something that is going to be realistic for even smaller teams of only maybe one IT person to be able to execute over the lifespan of their business or their tenure at the company. The goal here being, we want to try and make the environment as difficult as possible to attack. Yes, the reactive side of ActZero is second to none as far as being able to react and identify these alerts, but we do need to be proactive in nature as well to make sure that we are closing as many avenues of attack as possible to the bad guys. So this is a quick summary of kind of the service that ActZero offers, as well as kind of what the portal looks like. And I would love to set up something in the future with either you or somebody else on my team, or myself or somebody else on my team, to answer any additional questions that you might have at a later date. Thank you very much.